How does a military leader step into a civilian presidency without surrendering control of the guns, the laws, or the state itself, in a country where more than 93,000 people have been killed since a coup just 4 years ago? This video examines Myanmar's latest political maneuver, why it matters far beyond Naypyidaw, and how a new governing structure could redefine power without changing who holds it. If this transition succeeds on the junta's terms, Myanmar formalizes military dominance behind a civilian facade for years to come. If it fails, it risks intensifying a civil war already fragmenting the country. If it escalates, regional stability in Southeast Asia faces deeper uncertainty. What happens next will shape not only Myanmar's internal conflict, but also how the international system confronts entrenched military rule in the 21st century. At the center of this moment is Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, the army chief who seized power in February 2021, overthrowing an elected government led by Aung San Suu Kyi. That coup ended a decade-long experiment with partial civilian rule and triggered mass protests that evolved into armed resistance across the country. Since then, Myanmar has experienced one of the world's most complex internal conflicts, involving the military, ethnic armed organizations, and newly formed resistance forces. In late March, just days after the final phase of an election that will convene a new parliament next month, state media announced the creation of a new body called the Union Consultative Council. The timing is deliberate. The election, swept by the military-backed Union Solidarity and Development Party with 81% of contested seats, was widely criticized by the United Nations, Western governments and rights groups as neither free nor fair. Yet it provides the junta with procedural cover for a handover to what it calls a civilian government. The new council is designed to sit above that government. According to analysts, its mandate spans national security, legislative oversight, and coordination between civilian authorities and the armed forces. Rather than dispersing power, it consolidates it into a 5-member body with no clear mechanisms for accountability. In practice, it functions as a superstructure that overrides the executive, legislature, and judiciary. This institutional design addresses a specific problem facing Min Aung Hlaing. Myanmar's constitution bars the commander-in-chief from simultaneously serving as president. To assume the presidency, he would need to relinquish his military role. The council resolves this dilemma by allowing him to move into a civilian title while retaining decisive influence over the armed forces and state policy. Myanmar's military, known as the Tatmadaw, has governed the country for 5 of the past 6 decades. Even during periods of civilian administration, constitutional provisions guaranteed the military control over key ministries and a quarter of parliamentary seats. The 2021 coup restored direct rule after the military alleged fraud in the 2020 election, claims dismissed by international observers. Since then, violence has escalated nationwide. According to data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, more than 93,000 people have been killed in conflict-related incidents. Entire regions are contested, infrastructure has been degraded, and millions have been displaced internally. The military faces persistent resistance but retains superiority in heavy weaponry and air power. Against this backdrop, Min Aung Hlaing has signaled intentions to transfer what he describes as state responsibilities to a new government. At 69 years old, he is widely expected to assume the presidency. The Union Consultative Council ensures that such a transfer does not dilute military authority or empower a successor within the armed forces who could challenge his position. Legal experts inside Myanmar note that the council would oversee both the new commander-in-chief and the civilian administration, creating a dual chain of command that ultimately converges at the council level. This arrangement prevents any single institution from acting independently. It also ensures continuity of control regardless of changes in formal titles. One defining feature of the Council is the absence of oversight. There are no clear checks on its decisions, no parliamentary review, and no judicial recourse. In effect, it institutionalizes personalized rule within a collective body, shielding decision-making from transparency while projecting an image of constitutional order. Consider one scenario where this structure stabilizes the regime. The Council coordinates military operations, manages legislation, and suppresses dissent efficiently. The presidency provides diplomatic legitimacy, easing pressure from some regional partners. Resistance groups remain fragmented, and the conflict settles into a low-intensity stalemate. Now, consider an alternative. The Council fails to command loyalty across the military or bureaucracy. Rival factions emerge, economic pressures intensify, and resistance forces exploit divisions. Rather than stabilizing the system, the new structure becomes another layer of contestation, deepening fragmentation. The regional implications are significant. Myanmar borders India, China, and Thailand, and sits astride critical trade and energy corridors. Prolonged instability disrupts supply chains, fuels cross-border displacement, and complicates ASEAN's efforts to present itself as a cohesive regional bloc. China, which maintains ties with both the junta and ethnic armed groups, watches closely, prioritizing border stability and infrastructure projects. For the global order, Myanmar's trajectory highlights a broader challenge. Military regimes increasingly adopt legalistic mechanisms to entrench power while deflecting external pressure. Elections, councils, and constitutional revisions become tools not of democratization but of control. This complicates diplomatic responses, as formal processes mask substantive authoritarianism. International leverage over Myanmar remains limited. Sanctions have constrained parts of the economy, but have not altered the junta's core calculus. Humanitarian access is restricted, and accountability mechanisms face obstacles. The creation of the Union Consultative Council signals confidence that external criticism can be managed or ignored. Myanmar's future now hinges less on electoral outcomes than on institutional architecture. Stability and conflict are being recalibrated through legal design rather than popular consent. Whether this arrangement entrenches control or accelerates collapse will shape not only Myanmar's path, but also how power adapts in an era where legitimacy is engineered as carefully as force.